All right, so the two main areas that usually create the most difficulty are usually this area and this area. So I'm just going to kind of quickly just show you how I would do it. It's more or less going to be the same thing we did with the arms, but I just figured I would do it. So first I'm going to do is just go ahead and animate this. So we'll just key here, and then I will key it up as well. And I got to remove the other keys. I forgot to take those off. So let's just get rid of that. Delete and delete. Okay. Okay, so now we've got it animated up. So I'm just going to grab it, and we're just going to go to right click, paint skin weights. And we more or less just need to add some influence, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and just do add, and we'll just do 0.1 is fine. I'm going to make sure I do the solid. And I am just going to basically paint this a little more solid right here. That looks fine to me. And we'll paint a little more solid here. Now this is just, to be honest, just kind of a tricky area. So what we'll do, okay, we're already at 0.1. I'm just going to go ahead and basically just add a little bit more influence onto these, like so. Try and get just a better outcome. So something, I'm just going to pull it back down so I can get into here a little bit better. And we'll just try to give a little bit more influence. So let's see. We'll go up, and it's a little bit better, I would say. Okay, and then, oh, I forgot to do the butt going back too. So we'll take this, and after this, I'm just going to go ahead and we'll key it like 60, going the other direction. S, okay. So let's go back to this. I'll just hit Y, bring it back up. Okay, so let's look at the buttocks here. So if I look at this, you can see, I feel like there's too much influence of it. So I'm actually going to go to the spine here, and I'm going to add some more influence of the spine onto the waist, because that is moving, I think, a little too much. All right, so something like that. Let's go ahead and bring this one back, and I'm just going to make sure that we add a little bit more here as well. Okay, so now the thing to do too is you can always just go through and also, use a little bit of smooth to try and smooth out some of this. So I think that's a little bit better. It's going to be hard to make this perfect, to be honest, because no matter what, it's always going to kind of crumple on the inside. So I think that's probably best case scenario. So what I'm going to do is just use smooth, and we will just smooth this out a little bit. So just smooth, 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 like so, and like that. A little bit in there. Right, and then I'm just going to go here, and we'll smooth this out too. It's generally a good idea to kind of smooth both sides of it. So it's just, in order to get this to, like, because really what would happen, right, is the butt would bunch right here, but it's not going to be physically possible with the joints and the system that we're using. We'd have to either make an extra joint in here that bulges out, or do what we call like a post space deformation or a muscle system or something. But it's just going to be difficult to do it in this case. So we'll call that acceptable. I want to show one other thing on this as well. Let's say for some reason that you just have a single point that's just bad. So I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to do add. I'm going to make it 100%. So let's just like this. Okay, watch. Okay, so let's say you just got one and it's just awful, right? So you can see like this is not at all that single point. It's just painted very incorrect. Okay, so it doesn't look as bad there. Let me put it on something else that's more significant. We'll put it on this one. There we go. So see how that's really making it like sheer, right? So it's just really bad. One of the tools that you can use is you can try to paint it out and figure it out that way. But another thing you can do is use the weight hammer. So you go to vertex, you select the vertex that's all messed up. It's hard to see because it's white, but I select that one. Then you go to skin, and you'll see hammer skin weights. And what that's going to do is it's going to look at the area around it, and it's going to inherit those weights. So now if you look, you can see it looks pretty good, no problems. So it doesn't work well on large numbers. You can usually do it on 1 or 2, maybe 3. But if you try doing a large area, it's not going to work because it has to look at the area around it in order to figure out what the values should be. Okay, so that's kind of what I would use for that. And more or less, I would do the same thing here on the shoulder. The one thing I would, well, actually, you know what? I did want to do the shoulder. Let me do that one with you because there is some issues that delete and delete. Okay, so I'm going to do the clavicle and shoulder area here. So first off, I want this joint here that when I grab it, I don't want it to affect this area, right? Like that's no good. So what I'm going to do is this. This is kind of a neat trick. If you recall, you can't paint away weights. Like I can't remove these weights. I can add these like to this, but that's a big pain. The one thing you can do is something like this. You can go to select the vertices of the ones that you want. So I'm just gonna grab generally all of these, we'll say, okay? So all of these vertices I'm gonna select. Then I'm gonna go to Window, General Editors, Component Editor. And what I'm gonna do is go to Smooth Skins. And you can see there's a bunch of influences. What I wanna do is I wanna select that joint. So it's this one here. So it's the arm 2 joint. So I'm gonna look for that one. So here's arm joint 2. I wanna remove all the weight of that. So I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna scroll down. I'm going to hold shift, click there. So I have the whole bit. I'm going to type in 0 and enter. You're going to see it's going to go away because it doesn't show 0 values. If it did, we would see all of the joints, all of the joint names in there. If you do need to see them, you can just turn off hide 0 columns. But now you'll notice is, at least on this thing, go to object mode. At least on this thing, you'll see that that shirt will no longer, is moving up here, but the bottom is no longer moving. I'm going to select this and just do the same thing so you get the idea. So we'll go to vertex. I'm just going to hold tab to paint select. So we'll just grab all these in here. Okay. Like that. And I'm going to go over here and grab more. Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. So I'm going to grab all these vertices and I'm just going to do the same process. So we're going to go to Windows, General Editors. Where are you? Component Editor, and we're going to again look for arm joint 2. So L arm joint 2, click here, hold shift, click. I'm going to type in 0, hit enter. And now what you'll see is when I'll just bring everything back. Now you'll see when I pull this up, those will not move with it because they are now only attached to those other bits. Now it's not 100% because you can see that clearly it's still ripping some of this arm there. So what I would want to do is work on weighing those out. Now, one of the things I did, and I purposely left the shirt on here to show you, but notice that when you have a model that's underneath of another model, it will constantly compete. And we'll end up having, and I had this problem once before, and I remember there was like my director guy was like, oh, the shirt's poking through. And it's like, because you have the model underneath and you're bending it in a weird way, it shouldn't be there. But what you'll start to notice is, see, it's not too bad here. What you start to notice is that right there. See how it's poking through? Because basically the edge loops, the geometry of the underneath model, it's not the same as the top model. So there's always this opportunity for penetration. And to try and get these values and these values to be exactly the same at all times is extremely unlikely. See how like now, even when I twist, see I can see all the geometry poking through? So what you never want to do is what I did, where you have like a complete clothing and a complete character underneath. So really what should happen is the model underneath should all be deleted and you should only see the parts that are exposed. Because otherwise you're going to be constantly dealing with trying to paint weights underneath and above. So I'm just going to hit Control H to hide that. And I'm going to ignore it for now. Now, if this was an actual scenario and I had to actually have it in there, because if we were actually doing clothes and this was like a special effects, that shirt would actually not even be driven by the joints. We would use end cloth or some other system. What do they call it now? So end cloth or maybe MASH or something. We would use a different system. We'd have cloth dynamics actually apply to it, not the joints moving it. Okay, so further, what I would do now is I would go here, and then we would just go down the line, and you can see like see how there's like a hole there. So what I would try doing first is just smoothing the heck out of this and seeing what you could get. So I'll just kind of keep smoothing, and see if I can get a little bit of influence. You can see it's a little bit, sounds like it's kind of rough anyway. I'm not going to worry about the other side. I'm just worrying about this side. But it's a good idea to just go through the spine. See how it's kind of gunk. That's not very good. It's better if it were smoother. So I'm just going to go in here and we'll just kind of, right? I'm just going to kind of go like this. And I'm just going to try and smooth out that area like so. Then we have this arm joint 1, which is the clavicle, which I feel like has a little bit too much influence right now, but we'll see how that goes. So I'm just going to smooth out all those areas like so. All right, and then arm joint 2, and it just feels very rough right here. So I'm just going to kind of use a little bit of smooth just so it has a little bit of influence. It really shouldn't have too much over here, so I'm just going to smooth this out first, and then afterwards I'll go through and try to clean it up. Okay. So now if we grab the shoulder, you can see that's okay, but see how it's rough right here? See this little crunchy area? So that's the kind of thing that I would, let me see, joint 1. So you can see how it's abrupt, but if I smooth that out, right? See how it's smoother now? So that you just want to try and avoid things like that. We don't want to have that really rough. We might need to do it here too. It's a little rough there, right? So you might have to go to multiple joints in order to kind of get that look to be correct. Okay, let's go back here. Here, I'm just going to zero this out. All right, and then let's just grab this one, and then we'll just rotate this one up. And it's not too terrible. It could be a little bit better, right? But you can kind of see, I would just further smooth some of this out. I might have to take some of this influence and put it back over here. Let me see, how's this look? Could be a little bit better. See how it's like tearing right there? Feels a little rough. So what I might do is go here and see what we're working with. Maybe try smooth that out. Let's go. It might be a spine issue. Yeah, look how rough this is, right? So we don't want it to be like that. It should be a nice gradual transition from one to the next. But you can see that is not the case here. So we're just going to go through and try to transition a bit cleaner. See how that's why that's happening, because this is not smooth. So you want to try and make it, especially large areas that generally flex. Most of the other areas we've been doing, right, there's a specific point of articulation, so you'll see just one gradual smooth here. But when it's something that like bends like a tail or a spine over a large area, it's really important that you try to get those to be smooth, because the bend is smooth. So we already did that one. And then this one, yeah, so you can see like this is super crunchy. So just try to smooth that out. But so it might take a little bit of work, but I would just generally try to do the smooth thing. Okay, Q, let's go back here, and then I'm just going to zero out these, make sure these are all zeroed out. Okay, so I would definitely spend a lot more time on this and like work on trying to clean this up and all that. And you could just do the elbow the same manner that I showed you down on the knee. I think I already did that actually. You would do kind of the thumb and the fingers kind of the same way. You're just going to want to test all of them as you go, and just make sure that they're not too terrible, right? As long as it doesn't look awful. So like I'm looking here, you can see there's like the spot here that's not really moving with it. It feels a little bit weird. So I might have to grab this neck one and then add it through smooth here. So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll find where's the head? Here we go, neck one, and you can see it just abruptly ends. So I'll just smooth that. Yeah. Oh crap! Do I have a vertice selected or something? There it goes. Okay. And I'll just try to smooth that out a little bit, and then that way now when I go to bend this over, hopefully it won't be. See how it's a little better. Okay. So just look for things like that. The last thing I'm going to do. So most of that should work. Is there anything else in here I want to show you? Okay, so I'm going to show you one last thing, and that's going to be how to rig or how to bind the head, because you're going to notice that by default the jaw doesn't quite do what it's supposed to. Okay, so we'll do that in the next video.